Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 115, noes 1.
The bill is passed. Clerk will read.
Assembly Number 45098, Rules Report 545, Mr. Crespo, an act to amend the labor law and the state finance law.
On a motion by Mr. Crespo, the Senate bill is before the House. The Senate bill is advanced. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect on the 180th day.
The clerk will record the vote. Mr. Crespo to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very briefly, want to thank the leadership of Senator Diane Savino, carried this bill for so many years, and our program and council team in labor who worked diligently to address a lot of concerns around this bill that's been around for some time. I also want to recognize two other people. One is Mike Halpin, who's worked for years, and others to make sure that this bill sees the light of day and becomes law. This will save lives as we improve the work around the elevators in our state. But I really want to dedicate this to a young man that I watched growing up. His name was Brian Jacome. He was the son of my coworker when I worked in the Senate. He was an elevator repair guy, and unfortunately, he died in a tragic preventable accident. And I dedicate this to Brian. I know his mom, Helen, is watching, and I want her to know I haven't forgotten him, and this vote is dedicated to him. Thank you.
Mr. Crespo in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 123, noes 0.
The bill is passed. Clerk will read.
Assembly Number 8403, Rules 575, Ms. Raina, an act authorizing the Commission of Education and the Chancellor of the Board of Regents.
On a motion by Ms. Raina, the Senate bill is before the House. The Senate bill is advanced. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
The clerk will record the vote. Ms. Raina to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to explain the vote. The incorporated village of Hempstead is the largest village in the United States. Hempstead is a diverse, beautiful village with a broken heart. Their heart is broken because our children, our African American and Latino babies, have been suffering for decades. The Hempstead Union Free School District has been struggled for years to gain significant stability. There have been severe issues with fiscal accountability and transparency, curriculum development, accurate grade and data reporting, and security. Our children have had to endure interrupted education, missing class schedules, molded food, attending class in dilapidated trailers, visible black mold in schools, vermin that emerge during the day, and the serious issue of transportation safety. Currently, Hempstead High School students do not have bus transportation to and from school. We have issues with attendance and students dropping out because the lack of transportation is a huge barrier. Some of our children walk over 2.8 miles each way to and from school. Our children are walking through industrial areas, along busy streets near the highway, in rain, sleet, snow, and freezing temperatures. Our children are walking through gang-infested areas and often successfully recruited in these groups because our children do not feel valued, worthy, or protected. This is tragic. This is not how any child deserves to live, especially when they are students in a school district with a $215 million budget. The graduation rate has fluctuated over the years and even dropped to 37% a couple of years ago. These dismal graduation numbers line the pathway to poverty, and where there's poverty, there's usually crime. So in the Hempstead School District, we currently have an educational environment that fuels the school-to-prison pipeline. This is a huge problem for New York State. We have, if not the worst, one of the worst school districts in the United States. I am so sorry for the thousands of children that did not receive the education and development opportunities they were entitled to. I'm so sorry for the parents and the taxpayers that lost faith in the Hempstead School District and felt they had nowhere to turn. The parents who struggle to pay exorbitant property and school taxes and still have to pay for private school because they cannot depend on Hempstead School District to educate their children. I'm so sorry for the teachers who had to work in a chaotic and hostile environment. And I'm so sorry for the Hempstead School District employees that were frightened into silence in the face of inappropriate and criminal acts. I want Hempstead to know that I love them and I'm willing to do everything in and outside of my power to change the course of the school district. This is a massive undertaking and we would not be here without the support and hard work of many individuals. Thank you, Speaker Heastie, and my Long Island sister in leadership, KJP, for advocating for our children through the 11th hour. Thank you, Melissa Figueroa, for fighting for our children with everything she had, including her safety and freedom. Thank you, Chancellor Betty Rosa, for your unwavering support through this process and your commitment to standing by our side while we work towards a happy, healthy Hempstead. Thank you, Assembly and Senate staff, for working so hard to draft this unprecedented legislation. Thank you, Carolyn Gusoff and CBS, for your incredible documentary about Hempstead School District, 37%. Please all go and watch it as a cautionary tale. Your work spreads awareness about the conditions our children experience. Thank you, Sydney Daniel, my sister, for recognizing my purpose and working so hard to place me here in the New York State Assembly so we could save our children. Thank you to all the people who stayed the line and refused to abandon this cause and our children because it was the right thing to do at any cost. Finally, thank you, Senator Thomas, my partner in leadership, for your courage and strength to repair our school district. We need change. We need an effective long-term plan that brings immediate shifts in the right direction. I firmly believe this legislation is part of the plan. I'm grateful and ready to vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Ms. Raina, in the affirmative. Mr. Ra to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to commend my colleague and friend, and clearly you just saw that she, in a short time here, has put her heart and soul into this. Doing things like this in this chamber when you're dealing with locally elected school boards is something that we've never taken lightly, and it's something that is always difficult to strike the right balance between working with the local community but making sure that the supports are there and the controls are there on the state level. But my colleague is getting that right here today, so that hopefully into the future the district can improve. We can no longer have the constant back and forth of different factions pulling in different directions. So I commend her for her leadership, and I cast my vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Mr. Ra, in the affirmative. Ms. Griffin to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to explain my vote. I just want to say I stand with Assemblywoman Raina. This is a hard road that she has taken, and I give her a lot of credit for her bravery and courage. Every day that passes in Hempstead represents lost opportunities for the children of Hempstead. We know that every student that walked into a Hempstead school today is not receiving the full potential for the education they deserve because their teachers and staff are not receiving the leadership, tools, and opportunities necessary for them to do their jobs. Without this bill, it is unlikely they will receive those services in the near future, and they should not be made to wait while the adults around them keep arguing how to fix it. It's time for action, time so precious for our little ones when it comes to the acquisition of knowledge. The Hempstead School District has faced a number of challenges that this legislation can alleviate. This bill proposes appointing monitors to oversee district operations. While I represent a small part of the Hempstead School District, it is vital that we give our children the tools to succeed. We want students to excel, that parents want their children to thrive, and also taxpayers also invest in our children and expect the district to succeed at fulfilling their primary responsibility in educating children. Appointing these monitors and focusing on this school district that has been really in trouble for many, many years is a step in the right direction, and I hope my colleagues will join me in voting in the affirmative. Thank you.
Ms. Griffin in the affirmative. Ms. Richardson to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this evening to commend the sponsor of this piece of legislation for having the audacity and the tenacity to see this through to the end. You know, we are all legislators from various parts of New York State. We always have a district-specific eye, but it is not beyond us to lend an ear and mind and thought process around our colleagues' plights that they face. And the sponsor has spoke about the Hempstead School District to me for so long, and just wanting to see reform around the education and education justice for the students in that district. So I'm so happy to see that this bill is coming to the floor with its Senate sponsor intact, and I just want to put it on the record that although this is a issue that is happening out in Long Island, and I'm from Brooklyn, our eyes will be on the governor's signature for this bill to ensure that the children of Hempstead are deserving the education that they deserve. Again, I want to commend the sponsor of this legislation, and I want to let her know that you are never alone in any fight that you take here. We got you. Thank you.
Ms. Richardson in the affirmative. Mr. Levine to explain his vote.
As the person privileged to be the so-called dean of the Nassau delegation, I just want to say how proud our entire delegation is of our own Assembly member, Taylor Raina, and our own state senator, Kevin Thomas, who was just here. Thank you. Change is coming to the Hempstead School District. Thank you.
Mr. Levine in the affirmative. Mr. Smith to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just want to take a moment to commend my colleague Taylor Raina for taking on this issue. As a fellow Long Island representative and as an educator, this has been an issue on Long Island in the education community to make sure that the students in Hempstead schools get the best opportunities they rightfully deserve. I think it's been great that in her first 6 months, she has really led on this issue and really had the courage to stand up and fight against different interests in the community and make sure that our students are well represented and get every opportunity. So I'm so proud to be Taylor's friend and a fellow colleague here on Long Island, and thank you for the work, and God bless. Thank you. I'll be voting the affirmative.
Mr. Smith in the affirmative. Mr. Montesano to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to join in to compliment our Assemblywoman Raina, you know, this school district has had its difficulties over the years, and they're very severe difficulties, but there's been a monitor there, and his work gets undone. It's just a complex problem, and I'm just so happy that she's been able to take the bull by the horns, to speak, to get this done, because there's been a lot of resistance, a lot of pushback, and a lot of difficulty. And I would just say between this and the bill she did with the Freeport Armory so far, the people in her district, especially in Hempstead and Freeport, put their faith and confidence in her, and I will say it was well placed, and they're seeing the results. So congratulations.
Mr. Montesano in the affirmative. Ms. Arroyo to explain her vote.
I want to tell my colleague, Ms. Traynor, you are not alone here. We are here working together because our children have been abandoned for years and years and years. And every day that we can see an incident that happened is what moves us to do what we are supposed to be doing every day. But we have to demand from our colleagues here that we have to be together. Because what happened to one child today could happen to any child tomorrow.
Ms. Arroyo in the affirmative. Mr. Crespo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To explain my vote briefly, I just want to commend the sponsor. I've had the privilege of sitting in the row with her and talking to her over this past year about these issues, and her staff and Melissa and others in her office around these issues. And I also got a chance to learn a lot about the issues in Hempstead from talking to our Chancellor Betty Rosa and also the advocacy of many in the Latino community, an overwhelming majority of the student body in the Hempstead School District, and the needs of that community. As past chair of the Puerto Rican Hispanic Task Force, we've done a lot to advocate for the needs of immigrant Latino students. And I just want to say, Assemblywoman, thank you for your leadership in fighting for children that look a lot like me in your own community.
Mr. Crespo in the affirmative. Mr. Petri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to explain my vote. This is a true example of someone committed to making a difference for the community, someone that's committed to doing what's right for the people. We are in the people's house, and this legislation is an example of just that, is ignoring the white noise and looking forward and truly providing excellence for the 18th. So I want to applaud the sponsor of this bill, Ms. Raina, and I wish you the best, and I'm proud to vote in the affirmative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. LaPetri in the affirmative. Mr. Dorso.
I want to join my Assemblywoman here. Pardon me. I want to join all the delegation from Nassau. I've seen the school deteriorated from a distance. I never trusted the people on the board that made us so many changes that we charge for all kind of corruptions. Now, I think they appointed my friend Jack Beerwith by the State Department of Education, if I'm correct. I think he's still there. Am I correct? Is he doing a great job? He's my friend. I could trust him, but I'll leave it up to you. Anyway, you got my support, and you made such a big difference in a few months that you have been here than your predecessor that was here for so many, many years. Anything we could do to help you out, just let us know, let me know, and I'll be there to help you. Thank you.
Mr. Durso in the affirmative. Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me the opportunity to explain my vote. It is well settled that education is a civil rights issue of our time. And we know and we recognize that across our state, across our country, educational equity and excellence is the great equalizer for so many children who sit in our classrooms. And this is a great day, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear that while we in New York City are always fighting for educational advancements and investments in our school system, that together our voices are stronger. And when we have a unified voice, we will get to the place I believe that we collectively seek. We've heard this story in East Ramapo. We understand also, I'm sure that we'll hear that this is going on out in Suffolk County, and I'm sure there are many other places across our state where we are experiencing this. So today is a great day for education. It's a great day for our children, and I want to commend the sponsor on her bravery for bringing this issue to the fore, and I look forward to voting in the affirmative.
Ms. Walker in the affirmative. Ms. Miller.
Thank you. I just want to say, you know, we from Nassau also, we've been watching for years what's happened with the Hempstead schools, and it's been heartbreaking and frustrating, and it's extraordinary to watch what you have accomplished in such a short time, and it's so inspiring, and I'm so proud, and this is why we do what we do. And to watch you do this, and it just reminds us, this is what we're all here for. So thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Miller in the affirmative. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just, from far away in Suffolk County, we've also watched Hempstead schools struggle. But, you know, we know there was a major political earthquake that happened in Queens in the last election, but that on Long Island there was a big earthquake that happened in Nassau County when Taylor Rayner defeated the incumbent in that election. And it was on that day that the future became brighter for the children of Hempstead because of her campaign and the hard work that she's doing here. I commend her and I compliment her. And the kids have a bright future in Hempstead. Thanks to you, Taylor. Good luck.
Mr. Fitzpatrick in the affirmative. Mr. McCullen.
I just want to say congratulations. I'm in the district right next door. I know we're going to be working together on many issues for a school district that we share. I'm so happy to be working with you on this process. Keep up the good work, and we're going to have real results for the people of Hempstead. So thank you.
Mr. McCullen in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 139, noes 0.
The bill is passed. Mr. Ramos.
Mr. Speaker, can we go to Rules Report 616, page 35? Jean Pierre.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Clerk will read.
Assembly Number 8422A, Rules Report 616, Ms. Jean-Pierre. An act authorizing the Commissioner of Education in conjunction with the Comptroller to appoint a monitor to oversee Wyandanch Union Free School District.
Reading the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
On a motion by Ms. Jean-Pierre, the Senate bill is before the House. The Senate bill is advanced. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Ms. Jean-Pierre.